and then they come to you and they're like, okay, where's your money for your ticket? Have you booked your ticket? Can you book this ticket? You need to take that into consideration, because you also like need to realize that you have to pay for your own trip, your own accommodation, your own like all these things. What's up everyone? Hi everyone, welcome to another video. So summertime is coming, and I actually got a question, and I was also stuck with this question before when I just came and became an au pair. Should you travel with your host family? Now I know with the whole au pair program, you're part of the family and they always say you can travel with your host family. However, there's some host families that really don't want to travel with their au pair, and they want that to be like a family time, just a quiet time, and maybe they just don't want to pay extra fees to have a whole nother person, a whole nother human. And so I get it, they may want to travel with you, they may not want to travel with you. But this video is for au pairs who are like, do I want to travel with them? Or if I don't want to travel with them. Now I've had four families. I've had different families. I've traveled with kids, I've traveled with the older kids. And so hopefully this will help you guys come to a conclusion. And host families, if you're here, hopefully this will make you also make a decision whether you want to travel with your au pair, or just have a conversation, just start a conversation with your au pair. That way there's no awkwardness. Number one, are you even invited? Like, are you invited to this trip? Because it's one thing if the host family is like, oh, we're gonna go on vacation to see my sister in California, or we're going to the Bahamas, or we're going to Colorado. It's another thing if they're like, we're going to Colorado and we'd love it if you came. You need to find out if you're invited. Don't assume that you're going on vacation with them or you're not going on vacation with them, because they could be talking to you and maybe they've had previous au pairs where they've mentioned, hey, we're going to the Bahamas, and she's like, okay, cool, this day to this day I'm going to be in the Bahamas with my host family. However, some people say like, hey, we're going to the Bahamas, and you're not invited. It just means they're going to the Bahamas, which means you're going to be left behind and they're going to go to the Bahamas. So you need to make sure. And if your host family, because I've had two incidents, I've had host families be like, we're going on vacation for the kid's birthday, and to me I was like, oh, okay. And I was like, okay, they're going on vacation, and then like a few days before the vacation they made it clear, they were like, okay, I'm going with the kids and my husband, can you do this, blah, blah, blah. Whereas with here, I instantly assumed that that was the same thing. So when my host families here and the previous have said we're going on vacation, I'm like, oh, they're going on vacation. I've still never been like, even though I've gone on so many vacations with them, I've still never been like, we going on vacation. And then I've asked like, hey, you guys are going on vacation, or do I have to come with you guys too? And then they were like, do you want to come? You're more than welcome to come with us, but if you want a break, you can have a break. So there's stuff like that where my host mom will be like, dude, definitely come, it's gonna be so much fun. Or if you don't want to come, you don't have to come. There's gonna be a bunch of kids, be literally gonna be in and out, but you're still more than welcome to come. You never not, you know. So it's stuff like that, that way they can feel like, okay, you are invited or you're not invited, and you just also know where you stand. So you could plan a trip if you want to go away with friends, or you want to do your own thing. You could also plan and like have fun. Number two, are they paying for the trip, or do you have to pay out of pocket? Don't assume that because you're going with them they expect to cover everything. Some families, well, majority of the families usually cover for the au pair if the au pair is going with them. But recently I've discovered on like some of the groups that I'm on that some au pairs have been going on trips, and host families have required them to pay for their own trips. Now, what you also need to know is that when you're going on a host family, their budget is massive compared to your budget. So you may be like, yeah, sure, we're going on this trip, and then they come to you and they're like, okay, where's your money for your ticket? Have you booked your ticket? Can you book this ticket? You need to take that into consideration, because you also like need to realize that you have to pay for your own trip, your own accommodation, your own like all these things. And so you need to find out like, do you guys want me to pay? Should I contribute, or am I not contributing? Am I going as like part of the family, and am I just going but I'm not paying? Make sure you do that, because you also don't want to get there and be like, oh, I didn't book a hotel room, or oh, like they did book a hotel room but you didn't budget to buy food for yourself, that kind of stuff. So are they paying for this trip or you paying? Because there's so many host families that have come to au pairs for their monies for the tickets, and au pairs are like, wait, what? And it causes a rift, because of the miscommunication, you end up like resenting or becoming irritated by your host family, because you're like, you guys didn't tell me, we spoke about this for so long, and now all of a sudden I have to cough out like $500 for a flight, you know, that kind of stuff. So do consider that. Also know that if you're working and you have to pay for your own trip, basically for that week you're going to be paying yourself, because you're going on this trip but you're still working the whole time So just take that into consideration, that if you are paying for your own trip, your own hotel room, your own things, are you going to be working when you get there? Because what's the point? You could just go somewhere else if you're going to go with them and still pay for everything, but you still have to work the whole time. So it's like, do you not? And so I mentioned a little bit about working. That leads into my 3. Are you working when you get there? Like, what's your schedule? I always say try to treat it like, even though you're on vacation, like, what's your schedule? Ask your host family, like, when I get there, am I gonna work? Do you want me to work Saturday? Do you want me to work Sunday? Because I actually had a friend who went to Florida, super excited, like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna see Florida or whatever. And so many pairs, this happened to them. They get to the place and it turns out they've been working the whole time. The host family's been turning up, and they've been in the hotel the whole time with their kids, or by the pool with the kids, and they've cried because they're like, oh my gosh, I had an option to stay. They said I could stay if I didn't want to, but now I went and I didn't even see the place. And so now they want to go back there because they were working the whole time. Yes, they were in Florida or Miami or Chicago, wherever, but they were working the whole time, so they didn't even get to see the place. Try always ask your host family for like a schedule, especially for vacations, and be like, okay, you guys can, let's say they say, no, it's fine, whatever. So like, I can do one day and they can do one day. That way, they can also go and sightsee and have a, especially if you have a baby, they can go sightsee, do whatever. And then you can have one day where you can go and sightsee and do stuff. Or you guys could all just go together and like, as you're going out, you just help one another. If you see the child's getting restless, or if you have older kids, be like, oh, we'll go into the pool. That way everyone is just helping along. So find out, like, is this a trip where you're working? Are you required to work? Like, do they need help? I always just try, like with my current host kid, because he's grown, I try to, like, when we go on vacation, I'll be like, if you guys want to go on date night one of the nights, just let me know. I won't make plans then. Or like, I will try to be with him. That way, if they do want to do something in there, they can. So because he's old enough, me and him can, like, if we're going on rides, we can ride together. If he wants to swim, I can sit and swim with him. Like, he's old enough to do things. Whereas with some people, it's like they're older, so you could, I mean, the babies are younger, so you can be like, I'll hold a baby, you can go to the mall for a bit, or I'll like sit here with her, you can go do what you want to do. So it's stuff like that, just having communications, because you also want your au pair to go with you and see the place. And as an au pair, you also like get excited to see new places. So just make sure you clarify that. Number four. I've seen this also a lot. Find out, like, if you're not going, this is for somebody who's like, you know what, I prefer not traveling with my host family, I'm not going to travel with them, I'm going to stay behind. Does that week or however long you decide to stay behind, does that count as your leave? Or is that just weeks where you're just not working, you're still getting paid? Because I have a friend, she never goes on her host family. Like, when she matched with them, she made an agreement. She's like, you guys don't ever feel like you guys need to take me on vacation. I don't want to. Just let me know when you guys are going on vacation and I'll stay behind, that kind of thing. Just let me know that I'm not working in advance, that way I can plan trips. And so she doesn't have necessarily 2 weeks. She has more than 2 weeks, because she still has her 2 weeks, and then when they go on vacation, they go, and she is at home, the kids are obviously gone, and so she doesn't have to do anything. Now with some host families, and it's happened to me in the past, where if they know they're going on vacation and you're not going, they may still want you to work. So within that time, they'll say, can you clean the kids' toy room, can you sort their closet, can you fold? But that's like, honestly, host families that do that, I'm just like, why would you match with them? But anyway, don't just follow me. But so it's stuff like that, where it's like, find out if you're not working, how does that work out, like if you're not going with them, because you also don't want where they use up your 2 weeks for you, and then time comes and you're like, I'm going to Vegas with my friends, and they're like, hey, you don't have leave, you used your 2 weeks, and you're like, what? I didn't use my 2 leaves. You guys went and you guys said I mustn't come, or I want invited, or whatever, I decided not to go situation, and now I don't have any leave. You don't want your host family to decide your leave for you. You guys can have like a conversation deciding when it's great to take leave, but they can't say you have to go to Chicago for your leave, or you have to go to Michigan for your leave. They can say, we would prefer if you take your leave maybe in August because the kids will be back to school and my mom is in town, or we prefer if you take your leave in December, we'll be on leave. They can say stuff like that, but they can't be like, okay, December 16th, we're going on holiday, so you have to go on holiday and you have to go to Chicago because we're gonna be in Chicago, so we may need you to work. They can't do stuff like that. It's a no-go. And lastly, number 5. do you have to prep the kids for this vacation? So like, do you have to get their clothes ready, or are you just gonna like get them chilled? Because I know you have to wash their clothes and that kind of stuff, but are you gonna like prep them, as in like, do you pack their clothes for this vacation? Because I know I've seen on a lot of au pair and mom groups, like moms praising their au pairs because the au pairs have organized their bags and organized all these things. And I'm like, I've done it for one host family, but I mainly did like toys and swimming, and the mom did the main clothes. And with this host family, the mom does it because she just knows what she wants him to go with and what he mustn't go with. Whereas I've seen some host families let au pairs fully pack, especially for babies. They will say, okay, you pack the whole, so all the kids, and if the au pair is going, all the kids stuff, the au pair knows solely what the kid is taking. So just find out, because you don't want to be sitting back and thinking the mom's gonna pack, and then a day before they're like, have you packed for Jessica? And you're like, wait, what? I'm packing? So find out if you can always offer your help, but just find out if they want you to oversee that, or they gonna do it on their own. And now I have a bonus round, because this one is dear to my heart. It's never happened to me, but I saw somebody's post like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and it broke my heart. So when you go on vacation, this is specifically to au pairs, please carry your own money. Carry hard as cash. If you want to carry a card and you have a card, great, but please guys, for the sake, please just carry your own cash. Because I saw on a pair's post, they went on vacation and our host family made her pay for her own meal. They paid for the actual vacation in terms of like the hotel, and they kept buying dinner and bringing dinner back to the hotel, and they just didn't buy food for her. They did activities and they didn't pay for her for the activities. So they would say, we're all going here, and it's not even like she was expecting, you know, it's not even like she wanted to like be like, okay, you guys can do this, as in like, you guys can go on the trampoline and I will go swim. It wanted that. It seemed like she was working, so she still had to go to all these activities, but she still had to pay out of pocket for herself. And as I said in the beginning, host families' budget is way bigger than ours, and so they don't look at their price twice. They don't do stuff where it's like extra. And this girl, the part that broke my heart is that this girl basically starved and lived on like low incomes, and she had like a little money because she was like, my food is covered. And so for that week they didn't provide food, which legally host families should provide food if you with them. If you go out with your friends for dinner and you do other stuff, then you provide your own food. But if you're having dinner with them, they should provide for you. That's a legal law. However, not all host families do that. Like, host families still starve au pairs. And so please take enough money, or just reach out to your friends back home. If you know that you didn't carry enough money, reach out to your friends back home and say, yo, can you borrow me money? I will give you when I get back to my house, or whichever stage you're in, or call your LTC. Honestly, if you're in a situation like this in future, call your LTC and be like, listen, I didn't carry enough money. I didn't know. They said they got me. Especially when it comes to food and dinner with them. I'm not talking about when you go turn up and when you do other stuff. That's on you. I'm talking about if you're having flat out dinner with them, and that you can see they keep buying takeout for the hotel room, or they keep going out and buying dinner and coming back to the room and not having food for you. That is a problem. So please carry your own money. Do not depend on host families for that, because if you have your own money, you can buy your own food, you can do your own things, and then when you get back to the house, you guys can discuss what happened on that trip. But yeah, it just broke my heart that like, there's so many horror stories about au pairs traveling with host families, and vice versa. I'm not saying that host families don't have horror stories, but just be like, just have conversations with your host families, because sometimes like a vacation could make or break your relationship. Like, you could learn a lot about your host family on vacation, or you could get there and be like, you know, I think I want to change my family, you know, that kind of stuff. I hope this video helped someone come to a decision whether you should or should not travel with your host family. Traveling with your host family can be fun if you have a great relationship, but it can be horrible, like a nightmare if you don't have a great relationship. So those that travel like me and a few other au pairs, I'm not bashing and saying do not travel with your host family. However, if you have a terrible relationship with your host family, discuss it. Find out if you're working, because I don't want you to get super excited and be like, I'm gonna see Chicago, I'm gonna see these places, and you get there and you're just crying the whole time because you're in the place but you're in your room, or you're just miserable and you're unhappy and you're like, my relationship is terrible with them in their house, so you know. And then find out if you're working with your whole leave thing again. And that is it. on a higher, happier note. Enjoy your summer, people. Summer is around the corner. I'm so excited. Warmer weather, yay! Enjoy your summer. Host families, have fun at your au pairs. Au pairs, have fun and be nice to respect your host family, vice versa. Bye.